Cameras roll in a Detroit area scrapyard. Bronze coupes with cartoon sleek noses sit nose to tail under a sky the color of furnace ash. Men in work coats move like they're on a schedule. A torch flares. Paint bubbles. A front loader noses a car onto a pad. The crusher comes down with a slow hydraulic sigh. The roof folds. Then the windshield starbursts. Then the hood creases like a paper cup. Off to one side, a Chrysler insider explains, almost gently, that this is the best and most logical decision. Prototypes are orphans with press clippings. You can't let them wander off and become your problem forever. 46 out of 55. Burned first, then crushed. The number alone tells you this was not an accident of paperwork. Someone made a call. And the strangest thing is what happened just 2 years earlier. Ordinary Americans, teachers, dentists, postmen, had been handed the keys to these same cars and told to live with the jet age. If it looked like the future, if people lined up just to hear it spool, why did the story end under a forklift? That's the line we'll follow. Belief, trial, evidence, and a reversal you can watch frame by frame. Here's the belief. February 1962, Highland Park. Chrysler announces it will build around 50 cars for a public trial. Not claybucks or show queens, road cars. Bodies by Carrozzeria Ghia in Turin, final assembly in Detroit. The plan is simple and audacious. Put turbines on real streets, in real weather, with real drivers, and let the results speak. But this announcement doesn't come out of nowhere. For months, Chrysler has been running a barnstorming tour, third-generation turbine cars visiting scores of cities across North America and overseas. Thousands get rides, millions more watch from dealer lots. When surveyors ask the obvious question, if this car were offered for sale, would you buy one? The answers light up. Many say yes outright. Most of the rest say they'd seriously consider it. Interest isn't a trickle, it's a wave. Is that curiosity or a market? That's not curiosity, that's a market. So Chrysler doubles down. Styling chief Elwood Engel gives the fourth-generation car a face you remember, even if you've never seen one. Unmistakable nose, turbine bronze paint, bronze leather inside. The whole thing a museum piece that somehow looks ready to commute. The engine behind the grille is not a V anything. It's a gas turbine with twin regenerators. No pistons, no radiator. A pyrometer on the dash shares space with a tack that reads not to 7 grand, but to numbers that belong in a cockpit. The promise feels like cheating. Far fewer moving parts than a piston engine, fewer things to maintain, an igniter system rather than a bank of spark plugs. Multi-fuel capability, diesel, kerosene, jet fuel, even heating oil. The lab notes say the thing hums, not thumps. Vibration, gone. May 14, 1963. Essex House Hotel, New York City. Chrysler unveils the turbine car to the press, not a one-off prototype, the first of 50 identical cars built for a nationwide trial. The implication hangs in the room like perfume. If the public responds, there might soon be turbines in dealerships from sea to shining sea. This is genuine market research with a wager attached. If people love it enough, the future changes. Autumn 1963, Chicago. Under dealer lights, Chrysler President Lynn Townsend hands a set of keys to Mr. and Mrs. Richard Vierher. Flashbulbs, smiles. The pitch is bright and confident, smoother than piston engines, minimal maintenance, the future delivered like a company car. Behind them, a rack of press kits and a cutaway engine do the talking. If you're building a narrative, this is your first frame. The company is not hiding, they're proud. A travelling roadshow follows, the Roundup exhibition. 7 months of shopping centre stages, with a cutaway turbine, a narrator, placards that explain how the hot side works. Crowds lean over railings to watch demonstrations. You couldn't miss the car, even if you tried. That bronze, the hiss, the turbine badge. In Queens, 2 cars at the World's Fair give rides to anyone willing to queue. Another car embarks on a global tour, tens of thousands of miles across dozens of cities in country after country. The reaction is the same everywhere. It sounds like a plane. It's so smooth. My coffee didn't ripple. By late 1963, the loaner program begins in earnest. Applicants? More than 30,000 names in the file. A Big Five accounting firm culls the list at random until 203 emerge, spread across 40-plus states, every age from 21 to 70, 10% women. Every 3 months, cars rotate. You get it, you fuel it, you live with it. You hand in the keys and a detailed interview. Chrysler pays for everything but the fuel. And beneath the show, the numbers start to accumulate. Miles, driver logs, service tickets, interview transcripts. You can feel the spreadsheet forming, cell by cell. Duluth, Minnesota, May 13, 1965. The Edgewater Motel on London Road looks out over grey water and gulls. A Chrysler man named Mr. Brown calls the Olsen house with a voice like a secret. Tomorrow morning, please meet us at the motel. Don't tell anyone. Bring your license. When the family arrives, Plymouth Planning Chief J.M. Sturm is already there, with a photographer and a script. He says a few words about the program, the engineering, the idea of an American family living with a jet-age car. The car itself, bronze and low, makes all this talk unnecessary. Sturm hands over the keys. He's crisp, almost formal, like a conductor passing a baton. Back home, the front door becomes a buzzer at an airport. Strangers ring just to ask if they can hear it start. A bus full of high school band kids pulls up one night and politely asks the same thing. The family obliges. There's a ritual to the turbine's wake-up, the 8-step start. Key position. Wait for the sound of the compressor spooling. Watch the pyrometer climb. Don't rush it. If you do it right, the tone rises, the whine sharpens, and the car settles into an idle at 22,000 RPM that sounds less like combustion and more like a turbine fan spinning somewhere beneath your ribs. Then you drive it. And the feeling is unlike anything with a piston engine. Put it in drive. Press the gas. The car moves forward with a smoothness that feels wrong at first, like you're coasting downhill in neutral, even though you're accelerating. No vibration. None. The drivetrain has what one driver calls a rubber band feel. Disconnected, loose, like the power is arriving from somewhere far away. But once you're moving, once the turbine is spooled up, the highway becomes a different place. No gear changes, no engine note climbing and falling, just a steady, rising whistle when you tip in, and a sensation like you're riding on air. People pass, then fall in behind, just to stare. Gas station attendants abandon hoses mid-pump. What is it? Does it run on perfume? The joke is older than you think. In France, someone actually tried Chanel No. 5. In Mexico, the president requested tequila. Both worked. The Olsens drive it like you'd drive anything you're a little in love with. Repeated runs to Minneapolis. One long trip all the way to Butte, Montana. On the highway, the car is hypnotic. No thrum, no vibration, just that turbine whine, and the sense that you're piloting something that doesn't quite belong on pavement. It felt like piloting the future, until the future went quiet. 3 things go wrong in 3 months. A speedometer dies and is replaced on schedule. A pothole takes out a front brake on one side. It's fixed quickly. The worst is a total loss of power in traffic, heart-stopping quiet when you want noise. The diagnosis is not romantic, a broken wire in the fuel control relay. But what happens next is the point of the program. A field tech named Al Bradshaw gets on a plane with parts, lands in Duluth, and works until it's right. Overnight, no drama. Next day, the car is back in the driveway, humming. And here's the part Chrysler doesn't put in the brochures. The whole system depends on people like Al. 5 specialists with rare parts and deep knowledge, flying to breakdowns across the country. It works because the fleet is small, and the problems are triaged immediately. But you can't scale heroics. By August 13, the ritual is over. Ron the Port from Chrysler arrives, checks a few things, and vans the car away. The driveway goes back to normal. The house gets quiet again. The mother writes a short poem that begins with a smile. No pistons or rods, no crankshaft or antifreeze. Like a souvenir you can keep in a drawer. There's a small ache in that goodbye. When the family learns later what happened to most of the fleet, the word they use is waste. Put enough miles on anything and it stops being a story and starts being a data set. Mid-program, Chrysler cites around 160 families across 114 cities and 44 states, a running total near 770,000 miles. By the end, it will be over 1 million. There are things the turbine gets spectacularly right. Cold starts at temperatures that make pistons grumpy. Instant cabin heat, a serenity you can't get from a crankshaft. The most cited advantages in driver interviews: smooth, vibration-free operation, reduced maintenance, ease of starting in any weather. But the list of frictions grows. Some are human. Drivers who were taught the start ritual get impatient and flick the key out of start before the engine reaches idle. The automatic start sequence is interrupted. The hot side pays the price. Scored regenerators, burned turbine blades. Chrysler engineers add an interlock so the car won't let you hurt it with haste. That's not a scandal, it's a lesson. It also tells you the car is more aircraft than sedan. Procedure matters. Could training fix this? Or are we fighting physics? Some frictions are materials. In high-altitude, low-humidity locations, the combined starter generator develops brush wear that goes from annoying to catastrophic. The fix in the short term involves exotic brush compounds. The fix in the long term is a redesign. Separate the starter and the alternator so neither is stressed trying to be both. Some frictions are physics. Even with variable vanes and control tweaks, throttle response has a lag you can't talk out of existence. From idle to full demand, you're asking a gas generator to do something it doesn't love to do: change state quickly. Engineers shave the delay to 1.5 seconds or 2 in ideal conditions. That's impressive. It still feels different from a V8 that answers the instant your foot thinks about moving. Many drivers noticed it. Here's the number that matters: fuel economy. Typical real-world economy lands in the low teens. Some drivers report around 12. Fuel use was a common complaint. The brochures say multi-fuel, and that's true. You can run it on diesel, kerosene, even jet fuel. But here's the problem. The regular gasoline everyone actually uses is leaded, and lead is poison to the turbine's hot section. So you're asking American drivers in 1965 to hunt down diesel at truck stops or pay for kerosene, all to get fuel economy that's no better than, and sometimes worse than, a conventional V8. The fleet's down days drop from over 4% early to about 1% as the program goes on. That's a tribute to both the hardware and the field techs carrying the load. But it reveals something uncomfortable. The system works because it's small and curated. Scale breaks it. None of this erases the bright side. People still praise the smoothness. Most drivers liked the turbine's distinctive sound. Some bystanders didn't. Neighbors still ask for startups. The wine still sells the dream. But back in Detroit, Chief Engineer George Huebner is reading the reports and seeing a pattern he didn't expect. In the early days, optimism was everywhere. Progress came fast. But as the technology approached what looked like production ready, the improvements began to slow. The big gains, cutting throttle lag dramatically, improving durability, refining the regenerators, those were behind them. What's left are the hard problems, the expensive problems. The kind where throwing more engineering at them doesn't help, because the issue isn't technical, it's economic. And Huebner, who spent 2 decades on this, can feel the ground shifting. January 28, 1966. The last turbine car comes back. A woman somewhere in America hands over the keys, completes her final interview, and watches the bronze coupe disappear down her street for the last time. The program is officially over. Over 1 million miles, 203 drivers, 133 cities. George Huebner sits in Highland Park with the final reports. He's the man who made the turbine his life's work. Tall, stiff as a general, impossible to argue with. He believes in this engine the way some people believe in religion. Fewer parts, multi-fuel capability, durability that should shame any piston engine. He's proven it can work. And he also knows, privately, quietly, that the 4th generation turbine has problems that would be formidable and expensive to resolve. Too loud, even at idle. Acceleration lag still present. Insufficient engine braking. And the leaded fuel crisis with no easy answer. The PR department is still calling the program a success, still pointing to the 1 million trouble-free miles. But the numbers tell a different story. Fuel use is a recurring complaint, throttle response too. And the costs, those haven't come down the way they were supposed to. Then comes one word that ends it. Then comes April 1966. Product Planning and Development Vice President Harry Chesbrough makes a statement. It's short, it's direct, and it's the kind of sentence that ends things. The 50 test cars will be taken off the road regardless of whether the Chrysler Turbine Car goes into production. Regardless. The word lands like a verdict. The public enthusiasm doesn't matter. The engineering breakthroughs don't matter. Huebner's belief that they're 1 generation away from solving it doesn't matter. The decision is made, and the decision is no. Here's why. A turbine was order of magnitude more expensive than a V8 at the time, and bringing it to market would have priced the car at several times a comparable piston model. You needed exotic alloys from specialized foundries. You needed trained technicians at every dealership who understood hot section inspections, an entirely new service network built from scratch. You needed customers who'd follow careful startup procedures, or a redesigned system that's foolproof but even more expensive. You needed a solution to leaded fuel that didn't involve telling buyers to seek out diesel at truck stops. And even if you solved all of that, the business case still had to clear a high bar in an era when piston cars were cheap to build, easy to service, and already loved. The turbine works, that was never in doubt, but it doesn't work as a business, not at scale, not at a price anyone will pay. Some experiments end with a bang. This one ends with an executive statement in April and a quiet decision to recall the fleet. Chrysler will continue turbine research, 5th generation, 6th, 7th, chasing emissions compliance and better efficiency into the 1970s. Government-backed turbine projects continue in that era too. But the Ghia Turbine Car, the bronze beauties that 203 families drove and loved, closes in 1966. The letters go out. Return your cars. The program is over. The cars come back, one by one. Drivers who'd been local celebrities meet Chrysler reps in parking lots, sign forms, hand over keys. Most don't know what's about to happen. One car gets pointed at a barrier and sacrificed in a crash test. At least the data's useful. The rest go to a scrapyard south of Detroit. If it works, why crush it? You'll hear the theory about import tariffs on Italian bodies. The math says otherwise. Even at the high end, any remaining duty per car wouldn't have driven a bonfire. Chrysler spent years and a fortune on the Turbine Program. A few thousand in duties didn't make this call. The real reasons are corporate and pragmatic. Liability. If someone gets hurt in a prototype car 10 years from now, it's still Chrysler's lawsuit. Parts and service. Turbine engines need exotic components and specialists who don't exist outside the program. You can't orphan 50 cars across America and hope for the best. Narrative control. One Chrysler executive spelled it out in print. The objective was research, and they did not want turbines turning up on used car lots with blown engines and inflated price tags, creating false hope for a product that's never coming back. This isn't unusual. It's standard operating procedure. You've seen this ending before. Decades later, General Motors would do the exact same thing with the EV1, crushing nearly every car when that program ended. So, the cameras roll. Torch first. Render the parts useless. Crusher second. Render the whole thing moot. 46 cars. Flames, then compacted metal. Corporate efficiency. 9 survive. 6 go to museums across the country. The Henry Ford, the Smithsonian, the Museum of Transportation, St. Louis, the Detroit Historical Museum, the Harrah Collection, Reno, the Peterson Automotive Museum, Los Angeles. 3 stay with Chrysler, though 1 will eventually be sold to Jay Leno. And if you want a moment of grace instead of an ending, you can find it. Museums run survivors for the public. Leno fires his up on camera with practiced ease. The wine climbs, the cabin warms. The engine is so well balanced you can set a glass of water on it and watch it sit perfectly still. From the driver's seat, the sensation is unmistakable, smooth, disconnected, otherworldly. Like coasting in neutral while accelerating, like piloting something from a different timeline. But even those moments are footnotes. The real ending is the one Chrysler wrote in 1966. Experiment complete. Data collected. Program closed. Go back to the scrapyard one more time. Not for spectacle, for clarity. The same company that built 50 turbine cars, lent them to ordinary Americans, and collected 1 million miles of real-world data, also sent those cars to the torch when the answer came back wrong. That's not villainy. That's engineering meeting economics. That's what happens when you ask a hard question and get an honest answer. So, was this failure or a verdict? 9 survivors and 1 sound you never forget. A rising whine that belongs on a runway, not in a driveway. A dashboard with a pyrometer and a tach reading 22,000 RPM at idle. The memory of high school band kids asking politely to hear it start. A mother's poem about a car with no pistons, written at a kitchen table in Duluth. The smoothness, the complete absence of vibration that makes people who drove these cars still use the word magical 50 years later. If you came here expecting a story about visionaries betrayed by cowards, sit with something harder. Chrysler didn't kill the turbine because they lost their nerve. They killed it because they followed the data. Enthusiasm doesn't pay for engines that cost multiples of a V8. Interest doesn't solve the leaded fuel problem. Excitement doesn't build a dealer network from scratch. The dream didn't fail because someone gave up. It failed because the economics didn't work. Not in 1966, not with those costs, those materials, that infrastructure. The crusher drops again. Bronze folds. Someone waves to the operator. Off camera, a voice says, "Next one." the future that almost was, there comes a few neat bales of scrap metal on a grey Detroit afternoon, filmed so there's no confusion about how it ended. But the knowledge didn't disappear. The turbine taught Chrysler and the world about high-temperature metallurgy, exotic materials, regenerative heat exchange, and the gap between what's technically brilliant and what's commercially viable. That knowledge went into jet engines, power generation systems, the M1 Abrams tank. Lessons learned in those bronze coupes are still working, just not where anyone expected. The Chrysler Turbine Car didn't change the world, but it proved a turbine could survive 1,000,000 miles in ordinary hands. It showed that Americans would embrace something radically different if it worked. And it demonstrated clearly, irrefutably, what it costs to turn a brilliant idea into a product. For 2 years, it gave 203 families a glimpse of a different future. A smoother future, a quieter future, a future that sounded like a whisper instead of a roar. And 9 bronze ghosts remain to prove it almost happened.